Good morning. It is fairly early. I've just arrived at my park and ride station on my way into work, and the sun is only just coming up. This weekend the clocks change, we move into daylight saving time, and so as I'm thinking about the nights drawing in a bit more, I thought now would be a really good time to start How to Winter by Kari Leibowitz. This was a book that I was bought last year for Christmas, I think, and I think it's a perfect time. So Kari is an American academic, and she was interested in the relationship between winter and the reduction in daylight through the winter months and depression, and so that was a piece of research that she did. So she went to Norway, to the north of Norway, where much of the winter is in darkness, to explore this. And what she found was surprising, and actually the relationship between depression and a lack of sunlight through the winter months in Norway wasn't, depression wasn't as prevalent there, or any more or less so than anywhere else in the world. And so that led her to investigate that a bit more and find that actually it's not so much the lack of sunlight that's the issue, it's more our relationship to winter, because people living in the north of Norway and parts of the world where they have less sunlight through the winter have a much better relationship with winter, and so don't suffer with its with the effects of it so much. So that's what this book is about. She's going to be giving some practical advice about what we can do to change that relationship, and so I thought now would be a really good time to test that out.
I just wanted to give you a heads up too that I do discuss the content of the book throughout this vlog. I don't think you can give spoilers for non-fiction, but just in case that's going to bother you, this is your heads up.
Chapter 1 focuses on two main things, the first of which is mindset, because how we think about something impacts on how we feel about it, and therefore how we feel about it impacts our behaviour towards it. So if we have thoughts about winter, for example, that it's going to be awful, that it's going to be miserable, that impacts how we feel about it. It influences how we feel about it, and therefore influences our behaviour, and you get kind of stuck in this vicious cycle. That's kind of how mindset works. So what she's saying is, whilst we can't pretend winter's not going to be dark, we can't pretend it's not going to be cold and wet, but we can focus in on the things that might be not so nasty about it, and by focusing on those we reduce the impact of those negative kind of thoughts and that negative mindset. And she invites the reader to finish the sentence, winter is. So winter is, and as I'm reading that I'm thinking winter is long, winter is miserable, it's dark, winter is busy, because in my job winter months are our busiest time, which always feels really conflicting, because as natural beings that's a time when we're called to kind of retreat and rest more, and yeah, work for us gets busier at that time of year, so that always feels like a bit kind of of a push and pull, a bit of a conflict. So yeah, I do have quite a negative mindset towards winter, I guess. It's my least favourite month. My favourite month is spring, when you start to see signs of things kind of coming back to life. So winter is the total opposite of that, right? And so she's inviting you to think a little bit differently, and not to be kind of silly and pretend that something unrealistic is going to happen, but kind of acknowledging what is, focusing on the things that you might enjoy about winter that might be a kind of silver lining or a benefit. So it's sweater season, it's opportunities for crisp, chilly walks wrapped up with nice scarves, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was helpful. The second part of the first chapter was talking more about daylight saving time, which is perfect timing because that's happening this weekend. The clocks are changing, and so the evenings are going to be darker. And yeah, it is a bit of a miserable time. So she invites you to kind of prepare for that with a bit of intention. So she talks about how actually it's really discombobulating to have that kind of extra hour of sleep, but then your kind of like circadian rhythms are all a bit messed up for a little while until you settle into a new routine. So kind of like take the pressure off. So the week after the clocks change, the week after the daylight saving time kicks in, maybe do a bit less kind of like busy stuff and be kinder to yourself. Go to bed a bit earlier, just be gentle, do some nice things for yourself, which makes a lot of sense to me, instead of, just kind of like expecting our bodies and our minds to adjust overnight. It makes sense to kind of like just be kind about that. And she also talks about basically like building ritual around change, and I can really see the benefit of that, like doing some things to kind of prepare yourself for that change and shift into the kind of darker hours and so on. And I was thinking about that and there are some things that I could do. So like she was suggesting things like swap your wardrobe over if you've got like a summer and winter wardrobe, that kind of thing. I don't. But the thing that sprung to mind for me was the garden, because it's been so mild this autumn. I've still got sweet peas and cosmos in the garden flowering, but it all needs hacking back because our garden waste won't be collected through the winter. So I do need to do that. I need to sort of tidy up the garden and put that to rest for the winter. So that feels like a good thing to maybe do this weekend. I also got myself a seasonal drink on the way in. It encouraged me to like make the most of the change in season. So to celebrate starting to read this book, I thought, well, I'll treat myself to a winter matcha, which is basically a matcha with maple syrup in it, but it's lovely. And, I also really fancy like a new, really colourful, cosy scarf. So yeah, it feels like thinking about things that I can do to welcome in that shift in season is a really nice way to approach it, kind of like building in some of that ritual. So yeah, positive start so far. It's going to be a challenge because, like I say, I really generally don't like winter and find it a really challenging time. So if this book can change that, even shift it a little bit, then that would be great, wouldn't it?
So the end of chapter 1 invites us to write a list of 5 things that we're looking forward to over winter. And it also asks us to think about how we can prepare for the changing of daylight saving time and less light. So I've thought of 3 things. I'm going to get the garden ready. I'm going to buy a new scarf. And I'm going to buy some flowers, some autumnal flowers. To help welcome in the new season.
So the clocks change tonight / tomorrow morning, and I have tried to think about my mindset towards that and do the things that the book advised. So thinking about like 5 things that I'm looking forward to through the winter and focusing on the more positive aspects, not kind of like making it up to be positive, but focusing on the things that I am looking forward to, like Christmas, like more roast dinners, and also doing things to kind of like prepare to bring in that change of season. So I bought myself a new colourful scarf. There's a really cute shop literally on my way home from work on Friday, so had time before my train to call in and pick something up, and I'm really glad that I did that. It's really, really nice. And I changed the bed, which I know is just a small thing and we do that all the time, but it felt kind of intentional, I guess, to do that now, ready to kind of bring in a change of pace and a change of season, with the kind of shifting daylight saving time tomorrow. And my plan is to also kind of dress down and pack away the garden and kind of do some pulling up of stuff. I've still got sweet peas flowering. They need to come out now really, because they're going to get obliterated when we have a frost, which will be coming soon. So that feels like a nice way to mark and celebrate the kind of shift in season. So if it's dry tomorrow, that is, I'm not going out there if it's raining or blowing a gale, but if it's dry and there's a bit of time, I will go and do some gardening tomorrow. So that's where we're at so far. Forward, and we are now in daylight saving time officially, and I am feeling good. I really enjoyed kind of doing the garden yesterday to mark something productive that I could do in response to that and preparing for winter. I have carried on reading. The next chapter talked about how actually research shows that we do need a bit more rest in the winter, which isn't hugely surprising if you think like trees and plants and animals, you know, flora and fauna generally kind of retreats a bit in the winter. So it's not surprising that we need a bit more rest then. And so she invites us to think about ways that we can increase rest, which is really difficult when we lead busy lives that don't accommodate the seasonality. So she was talking about like finding like micro opportunities for rest. So yeah, sure, like going to bed a bit earlier is nice, but there are also other ways that we can find kind of like small moments of space, like inviting or doing more like rejuvenating activities that give us time for pause and a sense of presence and reflection. So that might be something as simple as like not replying to a text message straight away, or going for a slower walk, or just taking a few deep breaths, and creating space that way. She talked about how it's normal that we kind of adapt our behaviours in the winter, and warns against pathologizing that. So it's normal that we have less energy in the winter. It's normal that it's a bit more difficult to kind of motivate ourselves. It's normal that we feel inclined to do things a little bit differently in the winter, and we shouldn't rush to call that like seasonal depression. Seasonal depression exists, but that's something that really impacts people's ability to function, not kind of like the small changes that we all tend to make, or those kind of like feelings of it feeling a bit more difficult to be cheerful when it's dark and gloomy and rainy. So I found that helpful. I think that's an important point to make, that you know, it's normal that we feel a bit more shit in the winter, but there are kind of small things that we can do and often do that can help that. The other thing that she talked about was, kind of trying to find things that are more rejuvenating and, I'm about to get caught up in, oh my gosh, this is so pretty. You see all the leaves falling? Sorry, it's kind of focusing on my face instead of the leaves. It's so lovely out today. It's like a peak autumnal day. What was I saying? So she's encouraged us to think about like maybe trying a new hobby or like a wholesome activity that we would like to do and work on through the winter. I'm not sure I want any more hobbies. The only thing that I did think of was my sister is having a baby in the new year, and I wanted to kind of embellish some baby clothes and do some embroidery onto some like baby grows and dresses and bits and pieces. So I've ordered some bits of baby clothing on Vinted and hope to kind of like make a start on that. So I guess that's a kind of like winter crafty wholesome project that I'll be working on. The other thing to say is I had forgotten that I'd booked a sound bath tonight, and it's perfectly timed. So I have created a moment of rest and relaxation for myself today in this first week of things being a bit different time-wise with the clocks changing. So yeah, that'll be super nice. So I've got a sound bath, and it's in a local church, which will be really lovely, or really cold, or both. So that's the plan this evening. That was a gift from past Kari to present Kari, and she's very grateful.
Gone on to talk about mindset in a bit more detail, specifically how mindset isn't something that just happens to us. It's something that we have influence and agency over. And one of the ways that we can influence our mindset is by choosing where we place our focus. Focus on nature is always helpful. It's a bit more challenging through the winter, but it's still possible. The author particularly champions the idea of focusing and noticing the weather through the winter. That's something really easy that we can do in a split second just by looking out the window. We can do that between meetings, or as we're passing a window, or whilst we're doing chores. And the important thing about noticing the weather through the winter is to compare it to your expectations, because there's a strong chance that we're assuming that winter is a lot more dark and miserable and rainy and wet and grimy than it actually is. So by noticing what the weather is actually doing, we can start to challenge some of those inbuilt beliefs. Winter also offers those cold, crisp, bright blue skies. It offers like really moody skies. It offers dark and dramatic storms, and all of that is good stuff, and so it's important to notice it all. She also talked about how the Sami have 8 seasons in their year, and they break their winter down into 3 separate sections. So there's a like early winter, midwinter and a late winter, and each of those are seen as distinct seasons with their own kind of approaches to them and their own rituals around preparing for them and seeing them pass. And I really like that idea of kind of like breaking it down, because where it can seem quite long and protracted, actually there's quite a lot more to winter than just the kind of like bleak dark months. There's a lot more going on. So as we're kind of like coming into winter now, that's the kind of like time where it's actually a bit novel to be wearing a warm sweater. It's a bit novel to be kind of like wrapping up and kind of thinking ahead to things like Christmas and things that we're looking forward to, but also then you come out the other side of it and you have that time where you start to see signs of life coming back in. And I guess I always think of that as spring, but a lot of that happens in the winter still before we even get to spring, and so it's about kind of like seeing it as a whole, but also maybe breaking it down so that it feels a bit more manageable. The other thing that she talks a lot about in terms of mindset is language, and how important the language we use is. So instead of saying, oh, it's miserable outside, maybe try saying, my god, the rain smells amazing today. She talks about how she gave an anecdote about kind of visiting the UK, because apparently we're obsessed with it being rainy here all the time. I don't know what she's talking about. And how it had been a really lovely kind of like really like bright day for the most part, and it rained a little bit in the afternoon, and somebody that she came across was like, oh god, what a rainy day. And it hadn't been, it was just like a couple of hours, but we tend to kind of like focus in on that. And so yeah, she's basically demonstrating that it's important to see things as they are, not to rose tint, but also not to kind of like spin things negatively. So one of the things that she invites you to do at this stage in the book is winter positive small talk and to challenge winter bashing. This bit kind of erred on the edge of like toxic positivity to me, but I think I see where she's going with it, and I think it's a balance between like having a true reflection of what actually is. So has the whole day been rainy, and if it has, you know, what did that look like? What was the sky like? What did it smell like? Was there something kind of like good about that? Did you feel cozy when you were inside? And if not, like maybe kind of keep that balance. Like if it hasn't been raining all day, what was the rest of the day like? So I can see the benefit of kind of like having that more realistic and objective approach of observing nature. And she's also encouraging us to kind of keep that positive spin and kind of like flip things on its head. So if we're thinking negatively about winter, how can we think about it more positively? Are we enjoying the kind of cozy nights? Are we enjoying soup season? Are we enjoying roast dinners? Like, yes, all of those things. And choosing where we place our focus on those things rather than the stuff that we don't like can be beneficial. But as I say, I think that's got a danger of tipping into toxic positivity that I would want to err on the right side of.
So yesterday was Halloween and I had a really lovely evening. I went to a friend's house. She did dinner for us, had a few people around, and we had a kind of like nice kind of sort of being witchy time. But I think this book is actually rubbing off on me because so yesterday the forecast wasn't great. It was kind of drizzly, mostly dry all day, but it was forecast to start raining in the evening. My friend was messaging during the day being like, what are we going to do? She had things planned. It was going to ruin the plans, and she planned to do us a curry, and then we were going to go out into the garden and do a bonfire. And she'd kind of like organised some like really cute activities for us to do around the fire. And I was like, well, actually, I think it'd be better to do it the other way around anyway, and do the fire first and then come inside and get cozy and like warm up having a nice curry, which she'd made for us, which was delicious. So I feel like the book is kind of like rubbing off on me in that way, kind of like just thinking about actually, it is a really nice evening. It's just going to start raining later, so we'll just make the most of when it's dry. And that's exactly what we did. And we were sat outside actually for ages. I thought it was going to be cold and miserable and a bit damp, but it really wasn't. It was so nice, and it worked perfectly. So there you go, bit of a shift in mindset. You can see things differently and still make things work. The other thing that I was thinking was actually, we had a really nice time last night, and the reason we got together was Halloween, and Halloween happens at this time of year. And I think normally I would probably just not associate those two things, like just think, well, I'm going round to a friend's house for a thing, and it happens to be Halloween, which happens to be in the winter. But I was actually thinking about it more in the way that we were being invited to in the book, like focusing on the positives of this time of year and the fact that Halloween falls now and we can do cozy things, and you know, have a kind of like nice time with friends, and it's an excuse to get together and like do witchy stuff. Yeah, it changed my experience a little bit. Yeah, so it was such a nice time. We had a bonfire and she'd bought these sachets of stuff that you put in the fire that makes the flames go different colours, which was so cool. And then another one of our friends who's like an artist had kind of like come up with this ritual where we were like writing things down that we wanted to let go of and release and put those in the fire, and then thinking about what we're grateful for in the present, and also what we wish for in the future. And did kind of like a wee made up spell for that. It was just so nice. The other thing that she did, which I think I got some footage of, so I'll tell you what it is for context, otherwise it's just going to look like a really weird clip, is she got this stuff where you can like make smoke with your fingers. It was very cool. We felt very witchy. Yeah, but that was such a nice evening. It was great. I'm all dressed up because we are going to a wedding party tonight, so that's what's happening next. I've just been listening to a bit of the book that was talking about like, you're not made of sugar, it's okay to go out in the rain. And as I was pulling into town, it started raining. I was feeling quite grumpy because the forecast was meant to be really nice today. Look at that blue sky. But then as I got out of the car, I saw this really gorgeous rainbow. I was like, yeah, okay, fine. I get it. Sometimes a bit of rain is not that bad, and you get the beauty of a rainbow from it. So the book is doing a lot of good, if annoyingly so, proving its point in real time. Gone on to talk about how we can make the most of light, and light that we create through the winter. So firstly, kind of like big light off energy, making your space at home really cozy with soft lighting, and lamps and things. I'm a big light on person. I hate to admit it, but I do see the benefit of creating a really cozy space to come home to when it's been chilly outside. The other thing that she's talked about is fire and how fire can be a great pull for focus and reflection and warmth and community even. I mean, we had a fire last Friday night and it was just lovely sitting around and kind of talking to each other around the fire with drinks. And it just goes to show actually, if you kind of like wrap up, you can still really enjoy that. So she's encouraged us to do more with fire. And she does talk about being able to do that with candles and using the flame from a candle, but I have taken that as you need to go and buy a fire pit, Kari. I talk quite a lot with I have supervision with a counsellor in work. We talk quite a lot about like what people say and what I hear, because quite often people will say, oh, you know, it's a bit noisy in the office this afternoon, and I hear, you're talking too much, Kari, or things like that. So it has tickled me that she said find a way to use flames and fire to invite reflection and warmth into your winter months, and you can do this with candles. I've heard, Kari, you need to go out and buy a fire pit. So that may happen, or the moment may pass and I will be sensible. That remains to be seen. I do love a fire. Yeah, so there's that. And she's also gone on to talk about rituals and how building in rituals through the summer months can be good ways to mark time. And she talks about how the difference between a ritual and a routine is intention, basically, and attention. Intention and attention. So it's not just kind of like doing something for the sake of it, but actually what you're doing is to invite, I don't know, that self-reflection or connection with other people, or focus on nature, celebrating a a particular moment in time, whatever it may be. And we can have small daily rituals, and we can have like monthly rituals, and we can have like bigger annual rituals. So like Christmas is a ritual that lots of us observe, for example. And yeah, I think that's quite a nice thing to think about. I was thinking about like what my rituals are, and I don't know if I have any like daily rituals anymore. I have done like there was a period of time when I would like light a candle first thing in the morning, so that soft light was like the first thing you see, instead of like whacking on the lights and things. I don't know, she suggested like maybe lighting a candle when the sun goes down. That's a bit difficult because through the winter months I'm likely to be in the office for a lot of that, but I don't know, I'll give the daily thing some thought. Sorry, I just got caught filming, that was mortifying. What was I saying? Yeah, no, I'm having to think about what daily rituals I can include. I do have a monthly ritual, which I'll be doing this Saturday, which is a few of us go for a coffee on a Saturday morning. So the intention of that is like connection with friends, and also to start our weekends off with a nice chat and a catch up and a bit of support for one another, which is really nice. So that'll be happening this weekend. That's my monthly ritual. But yeah, no, it's food for thought on the ritual front. Sam is literally pulling me around the woods now, so I'm going to stop filming and I'll catch you up on the next few bits in a little while. She also talked about taking what you love about your favourite parts of winter, so like maybe that's Christmas, and kind of like harnessing that to carry that forward into like January and February, when there's not so much to look forward to. So at this time of year you've still got things to look forward to coming, but when it gets past like Christmas and New Year's, that's when it can get a bit more tricky to manage like responding to winter. So she talks about like how can you take what you love about those times, whether that's New Year's or Thanksgiving or you know whatever your celebration is at this time of year, and carry that forward. So for example, it may be leaving some like fairy lights up. I bloody love fairy lights. So I think that's a good option for me, like maybe leaving fairy lights up until like much later in the year, not taking all your Christmas decorations down straight away. I'm here for that. I'm ready to put the Christmas decorations up now and leave them up till March. Like I would so do that. Or like if your particular thing is like baking, like maybe kind of building in that ritual to bake some treats for friends or loved ones at Valentine's. So you know, I know kind of like the festive season is really quite foodie, so you know how can you take that and kind of like bring that into January and February. Or like gift giving, if there are people that you don't usually give Christmas cards or Christmas presents to, can you find an excuse to do that in the new year, which I really liked the idea of that. Like instead of sending a Christmas card at a time of year when loads of people are getting mail and hearing from people, you know, is there somebody that you could write to in January or February instead? I really like that idea. So that was that, and then she moved on to talk about how important it is to still get outside and to challenge like limiting beliefs that we have about winter. So that might be that you just can't go out as much in winter, and to challenge some of those limiting beliefs, and like going outside in winter is still like spending time outside is really good for us, and if we're doing less than usual of that in the winter, then no wonder we're feeling a bit crap. And yeah, okay, what you might need to do is make some adjustments to make that as comfortable as possible. So she's not saying like, oh, I mean she does say we're not made of sugar, it's okay to go out in the rain, which I agree with. I might not enjoy it, but that's fair enough. We are waterproof beings. But she's saying like do what you need to do, make those adjustments to make going outside in the winter as comfortable as possible. So that might be like having really sensible clothes and proper waterproof shoes. It might be doing it with friends, like if you need that incentive. It might be making home super cozy so that you've got that to look forward to when you get back inside. Oh, sorry, I'm shaking. Yeah, so I appreciated that sentiment. And, you know, like I was saying earlier about the kind of fire and the fire pit and what we did on Friday night, like if you'd have said, like, well, what my friend did say, we're going to spend some time outside, I was a bit like, oh, really? But it was so lovely. Everybody was wrapped up toasty warm. We were sat around a lovely fire. It was a dry night. It was really nice, and it was perfectly comfortable, and it was a really lovely thing to do. So yeah, I can see the benefits of that. I mean, I guess for me, because, you know, we have dogs, so they need to be walked all year round, annoyingly, but it goes back to the mindset thing, doesn't it? Instead of I have to walk the dogs through the winter when I perhaps don't enjoy the weather so much, I get to walk the dogs all year round, and I get to spend time outside all year round, and kind of just flipping that on its head a little bit. Yeah, so that's where we're up to. You are now up to date. We're about 3/4 of the way through the book, and I think on reflection, the things that I'm taking from it so far are like having some control over the situation. So building in some adjustments with intention and purpose is empowering, and that means that it feels less like winter is being done to me and more like I am experiencing winter. Oh, there's a tractor. Okay, we're good, we didn't get run over. Yes, I was saying it's less like winter is happening to me and I'm just having to put up with it, and more like I'm experiencing winter and appreciating the things that I can and making the most of it. And I think, yeah, I can see how that shift in perspective and mindset is valuable. Leaving work in the dark and it's raining, so I'm having to dig a little bit deeper to be cheerful about the fact that it's winter. But I have a nice warm coat and I've got flowers. One of the students that I have been working with for a long time, I'll wrap things up today, she got me flowers. So there you go, there's my silver lining. It's got nothing to do with the weather, but we can take that as a glimmer. I just had a thought, and that was on my way into work. It was a beautiful morning and I was really enjoying crunching through piles of dry leaves on my way in, kind of kicking them up as I walked. But I didn't tell you about that or film that. I've told you about negative because I'm walking to the train station in the rain. So apparently we still have a long way to go. The penultimate chapter is one that I have been kind of waiting for, expecting, anticipating. And so it starts off by lulling you into a nice false sense of security, talking about the benefits of baths through the winter. How lovely. Apparently the Japanese are really into baths, like to the point where it's unusual for people to have less than like one a day, which is kind of wild to me. But yeah, apparently there are kind of like genuine health benefits to having baths regularly. So yeah, it starts there, and then it goes on to talk about generally the benefits of heat and cold exposure. So I was expecting this. So it talks about saunas and cultures where I'm sorry, countries where there is a culture of having regular saunas, where people have saunas like in their homes, and how that increases kind of health benefits. And then it goes on to talk about the benefits of cold exposure and cold water therapy and cold water swimming and so on. Now, I'm no stranger to cold water swimming, but we are at this point more of a kind of like acquaintance that's lost touch. I used to go much more regularly, but haven't been for a very long time. So I imagined that something about cold water swimming was going to be included in this book, and was kind of anticipating that. And so we'll be using this as an excuse to get back into it. So that's what we're doing today. I've booked a swim at a local lake. There is also a sauna here, and that's what we're going to do this morning. I'm a bit nervous because it has been such a long time. The other thing to say is that I've come on my own. Now, you shouldn't cold water swim on your own. That's not safe. Always go with friends. The reason I have come here on my own is because there's lots of other people booked into the same session. It's a supervised lake, so I'm safe to do that without coming with a friend, but generally speaking, don't cold water swim on your own. But the reason I'm letting you know that is because I think filming is going to be really difficult. So I will try and set up a bit of footage so that you can see what I'm doing, but if I don't actually get any video of me actually swimming, you're going to have to take my word for it. So wish me luck. Well, that was bloody lovely. I got in a bit quicker than I had expected because the ramp wasn't here the last time I came, and so you get to the end of the ramp and then there's a bit of a drop. But we were okay. I've done 2 swims, 2 saunas, and oh, it's just so nice. I mean, the swims are so invigorating. You feel so alive very quickly. And then the sauna is very soothing and comforting, and now I feel quite sleepy and don't want to go ahead with the rest of my day. But yeah, I'm so glad I came. Like straight away I'm like, why don't I have a membership here? I need to come more often. But yes, very glad, very grateful to How to Winter for encouraging me back to this lovely activity. We've come to the end of How to Winter, and it's about time I wrapped up this vlog, because having done a wee bit of editing as I've gone, I suspect it's going to be a bit long. But I so enjoyed having you on this journey with me as I've been learning and challenging myself. There's something about the accountability of that, of filming as you go, which has been really valuable, I think, because quite often when we read like shelf-helpy kind of books, you can sometimes kind of like take it in and then it goes in one ear and out the other. But I've been challenged to actually kind of put it into practice as we've gone. Brennan's just making a wee escape up the hill at the moment. No, we're good. So yeah, I just wanted to wrap up and talk to you about my kind of like key takeaways. I think one reflection that I've had throughout the book is that perhaps I felt at times that similar points have been repeated in different ways, particularly around mindset. And to start off with, when I first kind of like noticed that, I thought that was a bit annoying, but actually on reflection, I think that was helpful, because what she did was show like different ways that you can challenge your mindset. And yeah, I think that was helpful in the end. So one of my key takeaways is that we have some agency over how we feel about winter. We don't have to kind of let it happen to us passively. It's possible to make some changes to make it more comfortable and more cozy and more enjoyable. That genuinely has had a big impact on me. Yesterday, so my sister's visiting from Germany at the moment with her husband and his daughter. So we went on a day out yesterday to her local kind of like country house that has like a farm park. The weather was torrential. It was absolutely pouring with rain. But normally I would have been like, oh, let's cancel. But I didn't feel like that. Like genuinely, I didn't have to talk myself into it. I didn't feel like that. I just put on a big coat and we went and had a really lovely time. And yeah, we got soaked, but it was fun. We still got to feed the animals. We still got to do all of the nice things we wanted to do. And then we went for a nice cozy lunch afterwards. Yeah, so I think this has genuinely rubbed off on me really well. So doing small things with intention and purpose can be really empowering if they are helping you to enjoy this season that can be otherwise challenging. The other takeaway, which has had probably the most significant impact on me, is noticing the weather. And it's such a small thing and it's so easy to do, but it really has helped me to challenge some of those limiting beliefs that I have about winter, some of those like unhelpful narratives that it's dreary, that it's wet, that it's miserable all the time, and actually just taking 5 seconds to look out of the window and notice, okay, it's not raining right now, has been really powerful. Like now, like the weather is supposed to be shite all this week. It's meant to be raining all week, today included. But right now I'm on a dog walk and when it counts, I'm not getting wet. It's dry right now. And noticing that has been so helpful. I've also noticed how other people talk about winter and the weather, and it is really negatively. And I've really noticed, like when somebody says, oh, what a miserable day, quick glance out the window, or like just noticing, wow, it's dry right now. And as I said earlier, I don't want that to be kind of like toxic positivity and kind of like invalidating for other people's experiences. But it's been helpful for me to notice and to challenge some of those kind of like narratives, those negative narratives that we tell ourselves about this time of year. One of the things that I really liked about the book was her writing style. So she uses lots of personal anecdotes of her own experiences and people that she knows, but that she also peppers that with her own academic research. So it legitimizes what she's saying without making it too dry. And the other thing that I really liked is at the end of each chapter, she kind of like does a kind of bullet point summary of the takeaways from that chapter, and also gives you a list of 3 or 4 things to try to implement what she said. So there's some really practical tips in here too, which I really appreciated. So I've been filming this vlog and reading this book for 2.5 weeks now, and I can honestly say it has made a tangible difference to how I feel about winter so far. But obviously the real test is going to come later in the year, when, or rather at the start of next year, perhaps when we're past the excitement of Christmas and we're heading into January and February. That's going to be the really challenging time, but I don't want to film this for that long. I'd be so interested, like if you've read this book, to hear what your thoughts are, or if you're considering picking it up having watched this, or perhaps more importantly, if having watched this vlog it's made you think any differently about winter yourself. I'd love to know. Please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me on this. This is the first I've kind of like had a go at reading a self-help book and recording my experiences of that. So any feedback that you've got about if I do that again that would be helpful, I'd love to hear it. But on that note, I really hope that you're looking after yourself through these winter months, and I'll see you again in the next video.